Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the new and improved 1214. We're going to go ahead and call the Public Safety, Natural Resources, and Transportation Joint Committee to order. Can the Secretary please call the roll?
Assemblywoman Anderson, Assemblywoman Brown May, Assemblywoman Dickman, Assemblywoman Gorlow, Assemblyman Hafen, Senator Goycochea, Senator Nguyen, Assemblyman Watts, Chair Harris.
I am here. Thank you. Committee members, just a little bit of housekeeping with these new microphones. We can only have so many on at one time, so please remember to cut your microphone off after you are finished speaking. We have a couple of budgets to close out today. We will start with the Colorado River Commission, and there are 4 budget accounts under that agency. Oh, please mark members present as they arrive. Thank you. We'll go ahead and turn it over to staff to walk us through those budget accounts.
Thank you, Senator Harris. For the record, Morgan Barlow, Program Analyst for the Fiscal Analyst Division of the Legislative Council Bureau. Before the committee, we're starting off with the Colorado River Commissions. There are 4 budgets that comprise this agency. As a reminder, these are staff closed budgets. And similar to previous biennia, staff closed budgets are those budgets with no significant concerns or significant informational items. These budgets have not been heard previously, and fiscal staff is responsible for the development of the recommendations for these budgets. These budgets will contain a summary page with a singular motion. Starting on page 3 of your packet is budget account 4490, the Colorado River Commission, which is responsible for acquiring, managing, and protecting Nevada's allocation of water and hydropower resources from the Colorado River. The Colorado River Commission is entirely funded by its customers and does not receive state or federal funds. There were no major items for this budget. On page 4 of your packet are the other items for recommendation. I will point out to you other item number 5, the salary increases. The governor recommends $25,308 over the 2023-25 biennium to support an increase in the salary for the unclassified power supply manager position. If the committee recommends this item for approval, this salary increase will be subject to review and approval by the money committees when the pay bill is considered. The closing recommendation for this budget and the other budgets for the Colorado River Commission are included on the summary page in the closing packet. If there are no questions, I'll move on.
Committee members, are there any questions on this particular budget account? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. Thank you.
Moving on to page 5, budget account 4497, the research and development account. This budget account is utilized as a pass-through budget for the costs related to the Lower Colorado River Multi-Species Conservation Program to comply with the Endangered Species Act. There were no major concerns or other items for this budget account. If there's no questions, I'll move on.
Members, questions on this budget account? Okay, you're killing it.
Moving on to page 7, budget account 4501, power delivery project. The power delivery project budget accounts for all the costs associated with the Colorado River Commission's high voltage power delivery system. There were no major items for this budget. There are other items found on page 7, but if there are no questions, we'll move on to the last budget account.
Members, any questions here? 4501. Senator Goycochea.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I realize, but a lot of this is funded by actually the power generated, and I'm just concerned, even though we're in a wet year and it looks like it's going to be a little better, this is a biennium, and we were getting very close to reducing those. What happens in that case? If we don't generate the power, don't get the revenues?
Chair Watts?
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of my understandings is that when some of these power agreements were put into place, the customers have to make some of the payments related to getting a share of that, regardless of what the power generation is. So those customers along the Colorado River system are already facing some impacts because they're having to pay their kind of contractual obligations and then source additional power. So that's a broader conversation, I think, is with some of those customers and the feds. But I don't think that some of the CRC's revenue is going to be impacted.
Thank you for that. So it will not impact this budget, but there are some local budgets that are being impacted somewhere. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay, we'll move on to the next budget account.
The last budget is found on page 9 of your packet. Budget account 4502, the power marketing. The power marketing budget is used to record purchases and sales of power and operational and marketing costs of the Colorado River Commission's basic substation projects. There were no major or other closing items for this budget as well. If there are no questions, we'll move on to page 11, the summary page.
Questions from members on 505-4502? Okay.
Page 11 is the summary page for the Colorado River Commission's budgets. As previously noted, fiscal staff is responsible for developing recommendations for the previously discussed budgets. Fiscal staff recommends that the following budgets be closed as recommended by the governor, with the technical adjustments noted, and request authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary. 296-4490, Colorado River Commission, with other closing item 5 contingent upon review and approval by the money committees when the pay bill is considered. 296-4497, Research and Development Account. 502-4501, Power Delivery Project. And 505-4502, Power Marketing.
Okay, members, if there are no additional questions, I will take a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I move that the following budgets be closed as recommended by the governor, with the technical adjustments noted and with authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary. 296-4490, 296-4497, 502-4501, and 505-4502.
I'd second that.
Okay, we have a motion from Chair Watts and a second from Vice Chair Nguyen. Is there discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes unanimously. We will take just a 2-minute break and switch out staff, and then we'll move on to the Department of Veteran Services. All right, we will go ahead and turn it over to staff to walk us through the budget accounts for the Office of Veteran Services.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. For the record, Alex Hart's Fiscal Analysis Division.
This morning, we'll be closing 3 budgets for the Office of Veteran Services. These budgets were heard by the subcommittee on February 21st. The first budget account to be closed is the Office of Veteran Services, budget account 101-2560. There are 3 major closing issues as recommended by the governor in this budget. This closing packet begins, this budget is on page 13 of your closing packet. The first major issue is the governor's recommendation for general fund appropriations of $95,279 and federal United States Department of Veteran Affairs, VA cemetery interment reimbursement revenues of $88,303, totaling $183,582 over the biennium to fund 2 new full-time grounds maintenance worker positions for the Southern Nevada Veterans Memorial Cemetery, which is located in Boulder City. As budgeted by the governor, these 2 positions, if recommended for approval, would be effective October 1st, 2023. During the budget hearing, the agency indicated that these 2 new positions were needed and the primary focus would be installing, repairing, and maintaining the cemetery's irrigation system, as well as other duties including grounds maintenance, the preparation of grave sites, as well as interacting with grieving families by escorting them from the chapel to the interment site. The agency indicated that the cemetery performs approximately 10 to 15 interments per day, and that these positions are needed to meet existing workload. The decision for the subcommittee this morning is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of general fund appropriations of $95,279 and Federal Department of Veterans Affairs reimbursement revenue of $88,303 over the 2023-25 biennium to fund 2 new full-time cemetery grounds maintenance workers positions for the Southern Nevada Veterans Memorial Cemetery in Boulder City as recommended by the governor.
Okay, committee members, do we have any questions on this particular decision unit? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and take a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve the general fund appropriations of $95,279 and Federal Department of Veterans Affairs reimbursement revenues of $88,303 over the 23-25 biennium to fund 2 new full-time cemetery grounds maintenance worker positions for the Southern Nevada Veterans Memorial Cemetery in Boulder City as recommended by the governor.
I'd second that.
Any discussion? Sorry, we have a motion from Chair Watts, a second from Vice Chair Nguyen. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay? All right, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next major issue, as recommended by the governor, is 5 new full-time positions for program management and veterans outreach. The executive budget recommends general fund appropriations totaling $435,371 and veterans VA cemetery interment reimbursement revenues totaling $403,494 or $838,865 in total funding over the 23-25 biennium to fund 5 new full-time positions and associated operating costs. The governor recommends the 5 new full-time positions for the department to manage existing veteran-targeted health and education programs, as well as provide assistance to veterans and their families in accessing VA benefits and services for which they may be eligible. Funding for the new positions, as noted, is general fund appropriations and federal VA reimbursement revenues. The recommended positions are 2 health program specialists, 2 education and information officers, and 1 veteran services officer. 4 positions are budgeted to start July 1, while the 5th position, the veteran services officer, is budgeted to start October 1st, 2023. In your closing packet, beginning on page 14, there's information provided on each of the 5 positions and the responsibilities for the programs that they will manage, and the responsibility of the new veteran services officer. During the hearing, there was discussion and information provided that the duties are currently being performed by contract staff positions, and that as such, it is not new workload, but rather this is the governor's recommendation to convert, if you will, the positions into state full-time equivalent positions rather than being contract staff. There's also information that was provided that indicated that it would be, in fact, be less expensive from a salaries perspective to have these individuals become state employees versus continuous contract staff. Beginning on page 16 of your closing document, in response to subcommittee's questions and concerns and interest, there's a table providing information that shows, based upon 2021 data from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, for each county in Nevada, the number of veterans that the VA believes reside in each county, as well as the Department of Veteran Services office that serves those particular veterans by catchment area or by service area. On page 17 of your closing document, there is also information provided in response to the subcommittee's questions and interest with regard to the number of veterans that are served by Department of Veteran Services office location, as well as the number of Veteran Services officer positions assigned to each of those offices, and the number of veterans who would be serving the veterans in that, or the number of VSO positions that serve the veterans in those areas. As you can see, it varies by office location. There was also discussion, Madam Chair and members of the committee, as to whether a technical adjustment would be needed if the subcommittee recommended approval of the 5 new positions rather than being contract positions, as to whether an adjustment would be needed to the budget to remove the contract costs. The department clarified that these contract positions are currently being funded out of a non-executive gift account. Therefore, no technical adjustment is needed. Finally, Madam Chair, members of the committee, the decision for the subcommittee is located on the bottom of page 17, and that is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend general fund appropriations totaling $435,371 and federal reimbursement revenues totaling $403,494 over the 23-25 biennium to fund 5 new full-time positions and associated operating costs as recommended by the governor.
Committee members, any questions here? Okay, not seeing any, I will take a motion.
Thank you, Chair. Before I make the motion, I just want to make a comment. I really appreciate the additional information that was provided by the Department of Veteran Services related to the VSO positions, and certainly understand the importance of having VSOs that can serve all communities within our state. At the same time, I think looking particularly at the number of veterans served per VSO between Las Vegas and Reno, I hope that we get some additional VSOs for Las Vegas, because I think the community could really benefit from them. But I'm just putting that out there as a comment. So with that, I would make a motion to approve general fund appropriations totaling $435,371 and federal reimbursement revenues totaling $403,494 over the 2023-25 biennium to fund 5 new full-time positions and associated operating costs as recommended by the governor.
I would second that.
We have a motion from Chair Watts and a second from Vice Chair Nguyen. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, all members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, motion passes unanimously with those members present.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The third and final major issue in this budget begins on page 18 of your closing packet. This is the continuation of funding for the Adopt-A-Vet dental program. The governor recommends ongoing general fund appropriations of $875,000 in fiscal year '24 and fiscal year '25, or approximately $1.8 million over the '23-25 biennium to continue funding for the Adoptive Ed Dental Program. As the committee may recall, the Adoptive Ed Dental Program is a nonprofit organization which provides dental care at no cost to low-income veterans who do not qualify for dental care through the United States Department of Veterans Affairs. Dental care is provided by participating dentists, dental hygienists, and oral surgeons. The governor recommends general fund appropriations of $875,000 in each year, which would be an increase of $625,000 per fiscal year over the $250,000 that's been approved previously for the current biennium. As shown on page 16, there's 3 bullets which contain the history of legislatively approved funding for the Adoptive Ed Dental Program. As you will note, this was previously approved as one-time funding and not included in the governor's recommended budget. So this recommendation by the governor indicated that approximately 115 veterans are anticipated to be served in fiscal year '23, and that there are approximately 100 veterans on their wait lists between northern and southern Nevada. In written follow-up information, the agency indicated that if this new funding level was approved, it would be expected that between 150 and 200 veterans would be served in fiscal year 2024, and between 200 and 250 veterans would be served in fiscal year 2025. In response to a follow-up question, both the agency and the Adoptive Ed Dental Program organization indicated that they would be willing to submit an annual report if the subcommittee was interested in requesting an annual report be provided to the Interim Finance Committee. Previously, the funding, as approved by the legislature, did not include any type of reporting requirement. At the top of page 19 is the decision for the subcommittee, which is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of general fund appropriations of $875,000 in fiscal year '24 and $875,000 in fiscal year '25 to continue funding for the Adoptive Ed Dental Program as recommended by the governor? If so, does the subcommittee wish to recommend that the Adoptive Ed Dental Program and the department provide an annual report to the Interim Finance Committee on or before September 30th of each year of the operation of the program, to include, but not be limited to, the number of veterans served, the county of residence of those veterans, and a line item breakdown of the program expenditures supported by the general fund appropriations.
Committee members, are there any questions on the Adoptive Vet Dental Program? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and take a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I think this is a great program, and I think the reporting requirements, as we're looking at making this an ongoing appropriation from the state and increasing the amount will help tell the story of the good work that's being done and help us measure the impact of these investments going forward. So with that, I would make a motion to approve general fund appropriations of $875,000 in fiscal year 2024 and $875,000 in fiscal year 2025 to continue funding the Adoptive Ed Dental Program as recommended by the governor, and have the Adoptive Ed Dental Program and the department provide an annual report to the Interim Finance Committee on or before September 30th of each year on the operation of the program, to include but not limited to the number of veterans served, the county of residence of those veterans, and a line item breakdown of program expenditures supported by the general fund appropriations.
I would second that motion.
All right, we have a motion from Chair Watts, a second from Vice Chair Nguyen. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Okay, motion passes unanimously amongst the members present. Before we move on to the next, before we move on, can the secretary please mark Assemblyman Hafen excused?
Thank you, Madam Chair. On page 19, there are 3 other closing items recommended by the governor, which appears reasonable to staff. Fiscal staff recommends that other closing items 1 through 3 be closed as recommended by the governor and requests authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
All right, any questions from members on these other closing items? Okay, seeing none, we'll take a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I move that other closing items 1 through 3 be closed as recommended by the governor and provide staff authority to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
I'd second that.
All right, we've got a motion from Chair Watts, a second from Vice Chair Nguyen. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Okay, motion passes unanimously amongst the members present.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next budget begins on page 21. This is the Southern Nevada Veterans Home account, Budget 101-2561. The Southern Nevada Veterans Home is located in Boulder City, is a 180-bed, 24-hour skilled nursing facility owned and operated by the state and certified by Medicaid, Medicare, and the United States Department of Veterans Services. There are no major closing issues in this budget. There are other closing items as shown beginning on page 21 and on to page 22 of your closing packet, for which the governor recommends budget reserve expenditures of $371,145 in fiscal year 24 and $428,371 in fiscal year 25, or $799,518 over the biennium, to fund staff training, deferred maintenance, new and replacement of computer hardware and software, and replacement and new equipment, and staff travel. Staff would call the committee's attention to other closing item number 8, which is located on page 22. And this was the governor's recommendation to fund the installation of backflow preventer devices in 10 janitorial water closets at the Southern Nevada Veterans Home. Staff is pointing out that tomorrow the Interim Finance Committee will meet. One of the items for approval by the Interim Finance Committee is this particular item, the installation of 10 backflow preventer devices. Therefore, if the Interim Finance Committee approves the work program request tomorrow, this particular budgetary item will no longer be necessary. If that occurs, staff would request the ability to include a technical adjustment to remove the revenues and expenditure associated with other item number 8 in fiscal year 24. The motion before the committee, Madam Chair, is fiscal staff recommends that other closing items 1 through 7 and 9 through 11 be closed as recommended by the governor. Fiscal staff additionally recommends that other closing item 8, funding for the installation of backflow prevention devices in 10 janitorial water closets, not be closed as recommended by the governor, contingent upon the Interim Finance Committee approving Department of Veterans Services FY23 work program number C62850 at its April 6th, 2023 meeting. Lastly, fiscal staff requests authority to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Okay, we'll go ahead and mark Assemblyman Hafen present. Are there any questions on this budget account from members? Assemblywoman Anderson.
Thank you, Chair, and it's more of a comment. I really appreciate the director taking the comments as well as questions that took place during the hearing regarding the water closets very seriously and making that a priority based upon comments that were made by our colleagues. So just wanted to point that out, how much I appreciated his listening to our questions from earlier when it came to the janitorial water closets, both in this one as well as the one that is in the northern Nevada on page 27. So just wanted to make that comment.
Additional questions or comments from members? Okay, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I move that other closing items 1 through 7 and 9 through 11 be closed as recommended by the governor. That other closing item 8, the funding for the installation of backflow prevention devices in 10 janitorial water closets, not be closed as recommended by the governor, contingent upon the interim finance committee approving the Department of Veteran Services fiscal year 2023 work program number C62850 at its April 6th, 2023 meeting, and to provide staff with authority to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
I second all of those things.
Okay, we have a motion from Chair Watts and a second from Vice Chair Nguyen. Any discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our next and last closing budget begins on page 25 of your closing packet. This is the Northern Nevada Veterans Home account, budget account 101-2569. The Northern Nevada State Veterans Home is located in Sparks. It is a 96-bed skilled nursing facility consisting of 12 8-bed clustered residential units in 3 32-room neighborhoods, which is overseen by the Department of Veteran Services and managed by a contract vendor. The facility, as in the South, is certified by Medicare, Medicaid, and the VA. There is one major closing issue in this budget, which begins on page 25. The governor recommends $120,666 in general fund appropriations over the 23-25 biennium to fund one new Veteran Services Officer position and associated operating costs. As budgeted, the new position would be effective October 2023. The agency testified during the budget hearing that the purpose of the position would be to assist veterans in response to the United States Congress and the President signing the PACT Act, which expanded the eligibility of veterans for health care benefits. The agency also indicated that having a VSO position stationed at the Veterans Home was a requirement of its contract with the Veterans Home operator. In response to the committee's questions, the agency indicated that while the new position would primarily serve the veterans and residents of the home, that it fully expected that as the community became aware that a veteran service officer was located full-time at the Veterans Home, that members in the community would likely access services and that the position would serve more than just the Veterans Home. The decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of general fund appropriations totaling $120,666 over the 2023-25 biennium to fund the cost of one new full-time Veteran Services Officer position and associated operating costs as recommended by the governor.
Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and take a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I move to approve general fund appropriations totaling $120,666 over the 2023 to 25 biennium to fund the cost of one new full-time Veteran Service Officer position and associated operating costs as recommended by the governor.
I'd second that.
Any discussion on the motion? We've got a motion from Chair Watts and a second from Vice Chair Nguyen. Any discussion? Okay, all members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. All right, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is one other closing item in this budget, which is on the bottom of page 26, relating to a slight change in the cost allocation for the department. Fiscal staff recommends the other closing item 1 be closed as recommended by the governor and requests authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Committee members, any questions on this other closing item? Okay, we'll go ahead and take a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I move that other closing item 1 be closed as recommended by the governor and that staff have authority to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion from Chair Watts, a second from Vice Chair Nguyen. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, all members in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? All right, motion again passes unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And then just one informational item, which is on page 27. As was noted with the Southern Nevada Veterans Home, the department has brought forward a work program for tomorrow's interim finance committee meeting. As you'll notice in the middle of page 27, work program C62859, if approved, would actually impact the governor's recommended budget as well, however, not within this particular budget. The governor recommends one-time general fund appropriations in the current fiscal year, which would be funded as a separate bill. If the interim finance committee approves the work program request tomorrow for this budget account, then that one-time general fund appropriation will not be needed. And Madam Chair, unless there are any questions, that concludes the closing. That concludes closing for the Department of Veteran Services.
Members, any last questions? Okay, then it looks like we are finished. Just want to give a quick shout out to staff. They are the reason why these meetings go so smoothly, and I appreciate the members being here on time, most of them, and being engaged and participating. This is what the work can look like when we all row in the same direction. So thanks to staff quite a bit. We will go ahead and open it up for public comment at this time. Anyone like to give public comment? Okay, I don't see anyone in Las Vegas either. BPS, can we check the phone, see if there's anyone who'd like to give public comment?
We have no callers to testify, public comment.
All right, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned. Everybody have a great day.